Hey y'all, and welcome to Bradley the Singing Chef. Today I'm going to make one of my favorite things in the world, and that is some Mexican food. And what I'm going to make for you today in this recipe video is my version of barbacoa. I'm going to let two things do all the work for me, my food processor and my crock pot. But the first thing I got to do is work on this 3 to 4 pound chuck roast that I have here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and season the chuck roast pretty liberally with salt and pepper on one side. Then I'm going to crank the heat up on my eye here with my cast iron skillet. And to that skillet, I'm going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of just vegetable oil. It's fine. Let that get nice and heated up. Get all that salt and pepper into the meat here on one side, flip it over. Again on the other side with some salt and some pepper. Get that nice and seasoned. Then I'm gonna take my first knife and I'm just gonna cut this whole chuck roast into little chunks. Doesn't matter if they are the same size at all, because all we're going to do is let these melt away in the crock pot for about 8 or 9 hours on low until this meat just falls apart. This is just to get us some pieces to sear inside this cast iron skillet. Again, no rhyme or reason to how you chop them. You just want them to be chopped down enough to get them into your pan. Oh, my clothes are running away from me. So just roughly chop through that whole chuck roast. You can use a brisket for this, but chuck roast is so much more cost effective and it works great. So I am choosing to use that. Now that, oh, listen to that thunderous round of applause from the hot cast iron skillet. And like I said, we're just gonna sear this. Don't wanna cook the meat all the way through. We just wanna get some brown color on all of these beautiful pieces of chuck roast. Great. I've got my eye on about medium-high heat. I'm gonna go wash my hands, grab some tongs to turn this with, and I'll be right back. All right, y'all, I am back. I've got my hands nice and clean, got a pair of tongs, switched out my cutting board too, because I don't want any of the meat from the previous cutting board on my next step. I'm starting to turn these pieces of chuck roast over because I'm starting to get nice brown caramelization on one side. Brown food is good food. Turn that over. Even just to get a sear on 2 of the sides of each of these pieces is good. You can do more, that's all the better. But honestly, at least 2 sides of each hunk of meat, getting some color on them, is what's gonna seal in that beautiful beef flavor on all of these pieces of meat. Got a little down in there. A couple of more to turn. We need to move on to creating the water for this glorious jacuzzi we are putting together in our crock pot. That piece. Great. I'm going to let those continue to go for just another minute or so while I go ahead and get started with the next step in my food processor. Like I said, I'm going to let the food processor do a ton of the work for this sauce that's going to go over these meat pieces in the crock pot. All I have to put in here is I would say 3 to 5 cloves of garlic that are peeled. I had smaller cloves, so I'm using 5. But if you have giant cloves, you may only need 3 or 4. I had some fairly smaller ones, so I'm going to do 5. And those just have to get smashed with your knife so that the peeling comes off of them. The end. No chopping, no mincing, because the food processor is going to do all of that work. I'm going to dump my garlic into the food processor. Then I have 1.5 tablespoons of cumin powder. That's going to go in. A tablespoon of dried oregano. And I'm just going to mash that oregano with my fingers a little bit to release some of the oils that are in the dried herb. Oh, it smells so good. That's a full tablespoon of oregano. Sounds like a lot of oregano, but we're making a lot of meat here, so you want to get it nice and seasoned, right? Now, the next spice that's going to go into our mixture might sound strange, but it is a game changer. It is ground cloves. Normally you're going to associate cloves with Thanksgiving and pumpkin pie, but this little spice does a ton of heavy lifting in this recipe. And you only need 1/4 of a teaspoon. I'm going to mound my 1/4 of a teaspoon because I love what that spice does to this dish. I'll let it be up to you if you want it to be flat leveled off or a mounted 1/4 of a teaspoon for you. I'm also going to need a heavy pinch of salt and a heavy pinch of black pepper into there. Okay, I feel like that needs a little bit longer, but not much, to sear those pieces of meat. Maybe just another 30 seconds or so. I'm going to keep those going. Okay, so here's where that second cutting board comes in. Before I add my liquids into the food processor, there's a canned product that is Chipotle peppers in Adobo sauce. This ingredient is the base of this sauce. It's going to go all over this barbacoa meat and spice it up. In this can, there are whole Chipotle peppers that are soaking in this beautiful spicy adobo sauce. Depending on what spice level you want for your barbacoa will depend on whether you want 2, 3, or 4 of these peppers that are in this can. So, pop the lid on this baby. Fill that back. And then onto my cutting board, I am going to take 1, 2, 3. I would say you can go up to 4, down to 2. I would not do 1, and I would certainly not do 5, even for the biggest spice lover. You don't want the spice to completely overwhelm. And all I'm going to do is take my chopping knife, run it through the peppers on the board once and twice. And you'll see inside those peppers are seeds. Those seeds are where the heat is. Then I'm just going to take those hunks and dump it in my food processor and get all of that juice that came off the peppers from the can into the mix, all the seeds that came out into your food processor. Okay, I'm going to go wash my spicy hands. I'm going to turn this beef one more time and see how that's doing, and I'll be right back. All right, y'all, this beef has seared beautifully in this cast iron skillet on at least 2 sides. I'm going to turn my heat off, and then I have the basin here for my crock pot. So I'm just going to take these pieces of meat and dump them over in with my tongs into the bottom of this crock pot. Yes, brown, golden color on the outside of those pieces is going to add so much flavor. That step is important. Don't skip it. Don't not sear your beef before you put it. I do the same thing when I'm making my drunken pot roast. You can see an additional recipe video for that, where I make sure that I sear the entire pot roast just like this, but not chopped up into hunks before I throw it into the crock pot. All right, my eye is off. Let's unplug that baby just to be safe. All right, so there's all the meat into the crock pot. Okay, so where were we? We put our peppers in with all the spices and all the cloves of garlic into the food processor, right? Now let's talk liquids. I have 1 cup and a quarter of beef stock, okay? Beef on beef, yeah? So pour that beef stock into your food processor. And then I have juiced 3 whole limes, which gives me about a quarter of a cup of freshly squeezed lime juice. This is the acid for this sauce that makes it so good. I can't even stand it. Okay, so I'm just gonna pour all of that lime juice that I juiced into my food processor. Then take the lid for my processor, close it down, and then I'm just gonna whir this on high for just a few seconds. Pulse, 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 pulse. Just to make sure I've gotten the food processor to do all the work with those cloves of garlic. And that, my friends, is it for this beautiful sauce. Oh, come on. I could drink this. I would probably have the worst heartburn in the land, but I could totally drink this sauce. And then, all I'm gonna do is remove the blade, put that to the side, and pour all of this goodness all over the meat that is in the bottom of this crock pot. I'm gonna put my crock pot on to its heating device, and I'm gonna turn it on low, and I'm gonna let it go overnight for 8 to 9 hours until all of this meat is just gonna fall apart in the best way possible. I think I might make just a taco or something tomorrow with it. I might make some enchiladas with it as the meat filling for some enchiladas. I haven't decided yet. I'll figure it out in the morning, see what my taste buds are craving. I hope that you will stay tuned, and I'll be back soon in the morning after this has finished percolating in its barbacoa jacuzzi. Stay with me. Hey y'all, and welcome back to Bradley the Singing Chef. I wish you were in this kitchen right now, because this barbacoa that has been cooking overnight smells fantastic. I have my crock pot vessel here that I just took off of the heating device over there, and I just want to show you what we created last night. Oh, that smells unbelievable. All I'm gonna do is take out with a slotted spoon hunk or two of this gorgeous barbacoa. I mean, really? Good grief, this looks amazing. So right now it's still holding together, just like the chunks that we cut up and put in the pan. But I've got 2 forks here, and all it really takes is one slight pull, and it separates into this gorgeous barbacoa mixture. As simple as that. Look at that beauty. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so good. So I'm just gonna make a quick little soft taco for myself. I've got a flour tortilla here. I'm gonna take that meat that we just pulled apart, put that right on my tortilla. Excuse me. Get that nice even layer there. I'm gonna take some shredded cheese, sprinkle that right over the meat. And then I have some diced tomatoes and onions, so we can say we got our veggies. And then just a few leaves of fresh cilantro right on the top. And voila, we have our soft taco. All that's left to do is fold and take a bite. Oh my gosh. Nobody needs to go to any Mexican restaurant when you can make this at home. Overnight, 2 devices, food processor, crock pot does all the work. I mean, it's so good, y'all. I love Mexican food, but this barbacoa recipe is a game changer when it comes to making anything Mexican. Quesadillas, tacos. I'm gonna make some enchiladas with the rest of this for supper tonight. I hope you will also try this really, really easy recipe that is packed with flavor. I think you're gonna really enjoy this one. I hope you'll all eat well. Love always. Bon appetit, y'all.